I don't know what I'm gonna do when I'm go home. I'm not gonna sit here and lie and say I got it all together. I don't know if I got it together or not.
What if I told you there are prisons designed specifically to house humanity's most dangerous individuals, serial killers? From 23-hour solitary confinement in soundproof cells to constant surveillance and extreme punishments, the conditions are harsh, isolating, and controversial. But are these measures justified? Or do they cross the line into cruelty? Stick around to uncover the chilling reality of what it's like inside these inhumane prison units designed for serial killers. Around the world, certain prisons have gained notoriety for their extreme conditions, especially those designed to house serial killers. One such example is ADX Florence, a supermax prison in Colorado, USA, often referred to as the Alcatraz of the Rockies. It holds some of the most dangerous criminals, including serial killers, in near-complete isolation. Prisoners here are confined to soundproof cells for 23 hours a day, with only a small slit for a window. Even during their 1 hour of recreation, they are kept in cage-like enclosures. Another infamous prison is Black Dolphin Prison in Russia. This facility is one of the most secure in the world and houses some of Russia's most brutal killers. Inmates here are blindfolded whenever moved, forced to walk bent over, and never allowed to lie or sit on their beds during the day. The guards are trained to exert full control, ensuring zero chances of rebellion or escape. In Brazil, Pedrinhas Prison has gained attention for its violent and overcrowded conditions. While it's not exclusive to serial killers, many violent offenders, including murderers, are housed here under appalling conditions. Reports of riots and prisoner-on-prisoner violence highlight its dangerous environment. Spending years in isolation can break even the strongest of minds. Serial killers, despite their hardened personalities, are not immune to the mental toll of solitary confinement. Experts argue that being locked in a small, windowless cell for 23 hours a day leads to severe psychological effects. These include depression, anxiety, hallucinations, and even psychosis. Inmates in these units are cut off from almost all human interaction. Meals are delivered through a slot, and guards rarely speak to them. This lack of social contact can cause inmates to lose their sense of time and reality. Some have reported hearing voices, seeing things that aren't there, or becoming completely detached from their surroundings. A study on solitary confinement revealed that many inmates in long-term isolation develop suicidal thoughts or engage in self-harm. The human brain is wired for social interaction, and when deprived of it, mental health deteriorates rapidly. In these high-security prison units, control is the top priority. Every aspect of an inmate's life is monitored to prevent violence, escape, or rebellion. Advanced surveillance systems are used, including 24/7 video monitoring, motion detectors, and even biometric scanners. Prisoners in these units often wear GPS-enabled anklets or other tracking devices. Some facilities use automated systems to lock and unlock doors, reducing the need for human intervention. This ensures guards are always in control and inmates cannot exploit weaknesses in the system. Surveillance extends beyond technology. Guards are highly trained to handle dangerous individuals. They work in teams to escort inmates, using strict protocols to prevent any chance of resistance. For instance, serial killers in Black Dolphin Prison are made to walk bent over with their hands behind their backs, a technique that prevents sudden attacks. These measures also limit communication. Prisoners are rarely, if ever, allowed to speak to each other. Phone calls and letters are heavily monitored, and visits from family or lawyers are restricted to non-contact meetings, often separated by thick glass. The purpose of this extreme surveillance is to eliminate any potential threat. However, it also creates an environment where inmates have little to no autonomy, further contributing to their psychological decline. The conditions in these prisons are designed to strip inmates of every comfort. Cells are small, usually no more than 7 by 12 feet, with concrete walls and little to no natural light. Furnishings are basic, often just a steel bed, a toilet, and a small shelf. Temperature control is another tool used to make life difficult. In some prisons, cells are kept uncomfortably cold or hot, leaving inmates in constant discomfort. Meals are bland and nutritionally minimal, often served cold. In certain cases, prisoners are forced to eat their meals in their cells, with no access to communal dining areas. Punishments for rule violations can be even harsher. Inmates might be placed in strip cells, which are barren except for a drain in the floor. Others face sensory deprivation, where they are kept in complete darkness or silence for days at a time. Serial killers housed in these extreme prison units often become infamous not just for their crimes, but also for the conditions they endure after their capture. Take Ted Kaczynski, better known as the Unabomber. He's held at ADX Florence, where his days are spent in near-total isolation. Kaczynski's cell is stark, and his interactions are limited to the guards who deliver his meals. Another example is Robert Maudsley, a British serial killer known as the Hannibal the Cannibal. He's housed in a specially designed cell in Wakefield Prison, often referred to as the glass cage. His cell is encased in bulletproof glass and resembles the prison design from The Silence of the Lambs. Maudsley spends 23 hours a day in this isolated environment, with his only human contact being guards who monitor him constantly. Russia's Black Dolphin prison is home to serial killers like Mikhail Popkov, who confessed to murdering dozens of women. His life in Black Dolphin is a sharp contrast to his days of terror. Here, he is blindfolded during transfers, fed under strict supervision, and constantly monitored to prevent any form of rebellion or self-harm. The extreme measures used in these prison units raise significant ethical concerns. On one side, proponents argue that serial killers are among the most dangerous individuals in society and deserve harsh treatment. They point out that these individuals showed no mercy to their victims, and isolating them protects both prison staff and the public. On the other hand, human rights advocates question whether such conditions are humane. They argue that prolonged isolation, sensory deprivation, and lack of human contact amount to psychological torture. The United Nations has classified solitary confinement lasting more than 15 days as cruel and inhumane. Yet some prisoners spend decades in such conditions. There's also the question of rehabilitation. While it's unlikely that serial killers will ever reintegrate into society, should prisons focus solely on punishment? Critics argue that even the most dangerous inmates deserve basic human rights, including access to sunlight, meaningful interaction, and proper mental health care. Despite the strict security measures in these prisons, there have been rare but shocking escape attempts. One of the most infamous examples is Charles Bronson, a notorious British criminal often called Britain's most violent prisoner. While not a serial killer, Bronson's violent behavior made him a high-risk inmate, and he staged multiple escape attempts using hostages and weapons fashioned from everyday items. Another case involves Richard Matt and David Sweat, convicted killers who escaped from Clinton Correctional Facility in New York in 2015. While not a unit exclusively for serial killers, their breakout involved months of preparation, including digging tunnels and manipulating staff. Their escape highlighted weaknesses even in high-security facilities. Ted Bundy's escape remains one of the most shocking incidents in criminal history and highlights flaws in the prison system of the time. In 1977, Bundy managed to escape from a Colorado courthouse library by jumping out of a second-story window. He exploited the lack of strict security, as he was left unshackled and unattended. Bundy went on to escape again from jail later that year by sawing through the ceiling of his cell and crawling into the building's ventilation system. This second escape allowed him to evade capture for over a month, during which he committed additional murders. His escapes prompted changes in how serial killers are confined, leading to the development of modern supermax prisons where such breaches are nearly impossible. The incident is still referenced as a cautionary tale about the risks of underestimating dangerous individuals. Serial killers, however, rarely succeed in escaping. Prisons designed specifically for them leave almost no room for error. A typical day in one of these prisons is monotonous and isolating. Inmates wake up in their small, bare cells, often measuring no more than 7 by 12 feet. Breakfast is delivered through a slot in the door, with no direct contact with the guards. For most prisoners, the day consists of staring at concrete walls or pacing back and forth in their cells. There's little to no access to books, television, or other forms of entertainment. Some prisons allow inmates to write letters or draw, but even these activities are closely monitored. Exercise time is limited to 1 hour a day and takes place in an enclosed yard or a small cage. Prisoners are escorted there under heavy guard and must remain shackled until locked inside. Even during exercise, they are alone, with no chance to interact with others. Meals are basic and repetitive, often consisting of simple bread, soup, or porridge. The lack of variety adds to the mental strain. By night, inmates return to their cells, where lights may stay on to allow constant surveillance. Prisons designed for serial killers weren't always this extreme. In earlier centuries, even the most notorious criminals were kept in standard jails, often overcrowded and chaotic. The concept of supermax prisons and specialized units emerged in the late 20th century as crime rates rose and serial killers became more publicized. The shift began in the 1980s with the rise of notorious figures like Ted Bundy and John Wayne Gacy. Their highly publicized crimes made it clear that traditional prison systems were ill-equipped to handle such dangerous individuals. Escapes, murders of fellow inmates, and violent riots highlighted the need for stricter facilities. Modern technology also played a role in the evolution of these prisons. With advancements in surveillance, motion detection, and building materials, facilities could be designed to make escape nearly impossible. The result was the creation of supermax prisons, like ADX Florence, where technology and architecture combine to ensure maximum security. Even in the most secure facilities, incidents involving serial killers occasionally make headlines. What do you think? Do these extreme measures protect society, or do they cross a line into cruelty? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. If you found this video interesting, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell icon so you don't miss more deep dives into chilling and thought-provoking topics like this one.